Hey, how you doing? Welcome to another video. In the last video, I was talking about the deaths of despair, suicide, overdose, and death by alcohol. Death by the results, the consequences of drinking alcohol. I also spoke about leading or constructing a life of despair, and one of the best ways of not only unplugging from alcohol, but moving into and building a life that you don't want to escape from. And that way was in finding and holding on to and building and constructing meaning or meanings in your life. Now, I touched on one of the best books that I've read about finding meaning in your life, and that was Man's Search for Meaning by a guy called Viktor Frankl. And it's a book that I've read multiple times, and there are many parts of this book that are really pertinent to us as we go forward in search of meaning in our own lives, right? Now, the book was divided into two different parts. Part one is Frankl's experiences and some of the lessons that he learned while he was in several Nazi concentration camps as a prisoner. I know he was in Auschwitz in Poland, and then he was moved to two of the satellite camps of Dachau in Germany. And I can't recall which ones they were offhand, but they were just about his general overall experiences within those camps, and not only about what was happening to him, but how other people were dealing with life in camps, the other Jewish prisoners, and also how the Nazi guards were dealing with life and how they dealt with things. The second part of the book delves into logotherapy, which was the form of psychotherapy that he developed both during his time in the camps. I'm not sure if he was developing this before he went into the camps, but during his time in the camps and afterwards. And logotherapy, one of the most important points of logotherapy was that a lack of meaning can lead to a kind of an existential vacuum in your life. And that's what we're talking about here in terms of despair. I think a lot of people have this, build this existential vacuum in their lives with alcohol. It's like a vicious cycle. You drink to overcome something, you don't overcome it, you've got problems with the alcohol, and then you're drinking because of the problems that you're creating with alcohol, and it becomes a vicious cycle. Now, as we said before, leading up to that, the deaths of despair are often feelings of boredom with life, apathy, feelings of emptiness. And these are all things that I know well in my life before I unplugged myself from alcohol, at least. So I wanted to share a couple of quotes with you from this book that really have resonated with me over the years. I've worked my way through some of my own personal problems and issues in life, and I have found some deep meanings in these just by dwelling on them and thinking about these things, and deep associations within my own life. Now, one of his more well-known quotes, and I think he may have been paraphrasing Nietzsche when he was saying this, was, "Those who have a why to live can bear with almost any how." Those who have a why to live can bear with almost any how. And he's talking about a sense of purpose and meaning in life. When you have a reason for living, a strong enough reason for living, or strong enough reasons, preferably, strong enough meanings in your life, you can find strength not only to push yourself through discomfort, but motivation to push yourself through the most difficult of circumstances in your life. You can overcome any challenges that life has to throw at you. So that's one to keep in mind during the hard times. Any crap in your life, this too shall pass, as the Stoics say. And if you have a reason to push through, the effort is worth it, not only in terms of you're going to pass through to happier times, but also that you're going to learn so much more from the challenges in life that you're going to learn than you will ever learn from the good times in life. The good times in life are sort of, you're in the moment, you're not really thinking about them too much. Challenges in your life make you think about things and make you reassess things and try different things in life, I think. and the more you try in your life, the more you experiment in life, I think the higher you're going to, the higher levels of contentment you're going to achieve overall, you know, even in the midst of the worst times in your life. Now, the second quote that I wanted to talk about of Frankl's that has really stuck with me over the years was one of the parts of the book that sort of skipped right past me the first few times that I read this, right? And the quote in particular was, ultimately man should not ask what the meaning of his life is, but rather he must recognize that it is he who is asked, right? And that, when I read that the first few times, it was more in the sense of, you remember the old Kennedy quote, don't ask what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. And I think what he was really trying to say, after a few dabbles in this, you know, I'm not the smartest cookie in the jar, right? You know, it takes me a while to get some of these things. But I think what he was trying to say was, instead of passively looking for meaning in your life, instead of just looking for something, trying to find meaning in your life, which is what most people do, including me, instead we have to actively respond to the questions that life is throwing at us and respond to the challenges likewise, right? So, to give you an example, when I look at my own drinking or the pain that I was going through for ages before I stopped drinking alcohol, the one big question, or one of the big questions that I was avoiding in my life, probably avoiding the most, was how can you say that you love your son and you are being the best father that you can be and still behave in the way that you're behaving, right? I knew that I was probably the biggest influence in my son's life. I knew that everything that he learns up until that point when he's younger, right? He learns much more from everything he learns from me. He's going to learn much more from what I do rather than what I say. But as I said, this is something that I was just hiding from for so long. You know, hiding from the question, never mind the answers. So, and it was only when I started to take that on myself, I started to acknowledge the questions, I started to acknowledge my role in his drinking, that I really started to seek out the answers and see the answers for myself and own up to those things and take responsibility and commit to what I needed to do. So you can only respond to the questions that life is throwing at you, right, by taking responsibility for yourself and what you think, and then what you do. And then once you do that, then you're going to find a ton of meaning in what you choose, in your choices in general, and how those choices inform how you act, in what you choose to do when you act. And that's why I don't teach stopping drinking alcohol so much. I mean, we spend a lot of time in that in the first month or two on the program. You know, we've got a 2-week preparation, prepare people, and then for the first 2 or 3 months, it's coping with not drinking alcohol anymore. But more than anything else, I teach what I've learned on this journey since getting unplugged from my own booze life and from my own booze thinking. I teach how to build yourself so that you're going to live a good life, right? Regardless of what's going on in your life, right? Regardless of the shit that's going on. I mean by living a good life that you're living a life that you're happy with, that you're contented with. And again, this is always going to be from my perspective. I can only teach what I know, what I've learned so far. And I'm not done with learning by any stretch of the imagination. I love living a full life, a life full of my meaning, right? And I love that I can teach that, and that some people are going to listen and apply it, and it will help them change some of the parts of their lives, or at the very least, how they think about their lives and their possibilities. You know, when I first started out with this, I started teaching alcohol maybe a year after I stopped drinking. And I felt such a fraud at the beginning because I didn't see myself as a teacher. And the problem was that I was seeing the word teacher in its very in its essence, from what I knew about teacher, was somebody in front of the class who'd gone to college and had done all this kind of stuff. But then I started to realize that the teacher, to be a teacher in life, you can be a teacher and as a father, as a parent, as a brother or sister, as a friend, you know, you're teaching somebody. You can see something that somebody is doing that you know you can help them with. That is the definition of a teacher. And once I knew that about myself, it became a lot easier. I felt much less of a fraud, let's say. Now, we talk about stopping the flow, doing the work, moving on. The stopping the flow part is obvious, right? Whether you're drinking or you're doing anything else that's detrimental to you, especially when we're talking about habits of consumption, right? You stop the flow of what's keeping the habit alive. Right, the work can come in just many different forms. For me, for the way I teach, what I mean by work is, among other things, helping you to find that meaning or those meanings, to help you to see what you truly value in your life, what is valuable to you, not as to help you to see the true values in your life or the values that you practice above the values that you aspire to. You know, we've got certain values that we aspire to, but we also have real values, and it's those real values that you act on. So that's important to understand that, and then to build in other values in your life, right? To see what is most important to you and to help you to work towards those things, to help you to see your own virtues, the things about you that nobody else has, that nobody else can have, right? You know, if you've got children, nobody else can take your role as a father or a mother. If you've got grandchildren, nobody else can take your role as a granny or granddad, right? You and you alone can answer that particular specific call. Only you can be that specific parent. You know, the same thing goes the other way around. You know, nobody else can be the son or the daughter that you can be, right? Nobody else can be the friend that you can be. Now, if your vocation in life is to help other people in some way, nobody else has got that mixture of skills and life experience and knowledge that you specifically can bring to the table for a specific set of people who are open to that specific message that you've got, right? You're unique, right? Living a life directed by that meaning, or preferably by those meanings, and by the way, you know, this is something that, as I said before, I'm continuously learning the way things are going. You know, this is going to be, I think, an existential crisis for generations to come, that search for meaning, that desperate search for meaning. So it's something that I'm learning how to handle in my own life and to teach also, right? So, you know, getting back to the last video where I was talking about the deaths of despair, I think despair arises from 3 different places in your life. From your inner self, principally, and from other people and the outside world. And those second 2, other people and the outside world, they're going to affect the first, again, depending on how you respond internally, right? The answers to all of this stuff, not the answers to all life's problems, but in how you respond to those problems. You can't, as I said before, you can't help that things are going to happen in your life. Things are going to happen. Shit's going to hit the fan. It's not that those things are going to happen. Those things are inevitable, as well as the good things in life, by the way. But it's not in what happens to you. It's how you respond, right? How you respond to those problems. That's mostly going to be found in that inner space inside. The sense of meaning and purpose is found there, right up here, inside your heart. You know, that connecting with your deepest wishes in life also, you know, those desires that you want in life. Also looking for your unique gifts and potentials, as we talked about earlier. You know, if you can find a sense of belonging in life, you're on the right path. There's a huge importance in seeking out spaces and communities where you feel included, you know, where you can find understanding and get support. You know, we've got a wonderful community on Habits V2 with so many people who are working their way through their own problems. You know, it all starts with the alcohol, but after we've stopped the flow of alcohol, then we start to work on different problems. And these people are coming up with solutions, or at least learning different ways of responding to those things, right? Much healthier ways of responding to these things that's tapping into really good mental health, long-term mental health. And it's important to recognize the significance of living an authentic life. We spoke about this a few videos ago, a couple of weeks ago, I think it was. You know, living authentically can be a cliched buzzword, but you know, it can be used to dumb down reality. But you know, what I mean by living authentically to yourself is being aligned with your own values, with your own passions, with your own aspirations in life. And first you've got to spend time finding out what these things are, you know. As I said earlier, we spend a lot of time in the program doing the work on this, right? You know, it's not going to happen overnight. It doesn't happen automatically. You have to approach it with, you have to start out with some kind of a plan of how you're going to approach this, and then work your way through it bit by bit, step by step. It's an important foundation, I think, for everything else that's going to follow. And, you know, I also try to encourage you to listen to those inner stirrings of your heart as well. You know, your instincts. It's good to listen, but it's good to learn new skills, new ways of doing things, but you also have to follow your own intuitions and engage in self-reflection and self-discovery. You know, if you're going to find your own unique path in this life, then, you know, I think that's one of the only ways that you're going to do this. Only you can truly know yourself and know if you're on the right path and what feels right, you know. Only you can do that by really getting to know yourself well. You know, I think I was also speaking the last time about the transformative power of nature, of being out here in the wild on your own, thinking and reflecting, you know. And there is similar, I think there's a similar transformative power in art, in sport, there's so many different things that you can do, where you can find so much solace and inspiration and a new or a renewed sense of meaning in yourself, right, and connecting with those things. So I really do encourage you to engage with your inner self, cultivate those authentic connections, and start pursuing a life of alignment with your deepest values and your deepest aspirations. Now remember, it's not all about perfection. It's mostly about progress. We're moving onwards and upwards together. If you're looking for more structured help from me in this journey of transformation, you can consider joining our program. You can find the link to our free beginner's guide in the description below. It's a really solid starting point for what we cover in the full program, and the link to our full program, Habits V2, is also in the description. So, you know, I think, you know, when we're working on this together, we can step into that potential with a clear mind and hopefully build ourselves into a much healthier life, mentally and physically. So take care of yourself, and I'll speak to you in the next video. Onwards and upwards. Bye now.